Welcome back to the channel. So, um, this has been a difficult time for some of the Yang gang, some of us, because as many of you well know, or all of us at this point, Andrew Yang did drop out of the election last night. And Andrew Yang did the right thing because it was going to be no sense in him continuing to collect donations and try to go forward when he knew with the numbers it was not going to be possible to win. So he did the right thing. Now we just as a people, haven't evolved enough yet to be ready for Andrew Yang's message. We're just not there yet. We haven't. I have been saying it during a lot of my Andrew Yang videos that this was something that many of us weren't quite there with yet. And sometimes people who need things the most are the biggest adversaries to it, all right? And we see those kind of things happen all the time. So Andrew Yang has left the election, and what we've gotten from this is we've gotten a situation where, something that we could have never imagined, right? We have to dial it back, and we have to go back to universal basic income. Even the perceived idea of something like that was something unfathomable to many of us. And for Andrew Yang to take it and make it such a public message and such a possibility and such a great solution to our problems in politics, society, economics, because I felt it covered all those things. It covered equality. It covered all the socioeconomics of our state of affairs. For him to be able to do that was quite extraordinary, right? And to get this far, right, and to create such a movement, this was the only thing that I've seen in a political campaign that really was so electrifying and so moving since Obama, right? Since Obama was going to be the first black president, right? We had never seen something quite like that. And with Andrew Yang, it was from an economic standpoint, the dynamics of having a system like this in place was going to dramatically just change the way we see everything, not just the aggregate dollar amounts, but how we value one another as people, right? That, that I could say to you that you should have your basic needs met, right? That it is the human thing to do. That your value to this society is that you should be valued in a way to where you're going to be able to have basic needs met. We're going to be concerned about your health care, right? Because you're a fellow human being. And all these things, which to some of us would seem just so natural and would seem just to be the right thing to do, for many of us is still there. We're still not quite there yet with it, right? We don't quite understand humanity first concept or idea. We're worried about who's getting something and who's doing what for it on such a reciprocal base that it's distracted us from being or looking at this from a broader view. And that is disappointing. It is concerning. Getting into the politics of what happened with during the whole entire Andrew Yang campaign, Um, it was always a wake up call for me, and I always knew it was there, but it was just so much more um, uh, there right in the face concerning how the media is involved with our election process, how information is relayed to us, the money that's involved in politics, how it controls so many elements of the political process and our democratic process, and our freedom to make the choice of who we should see being skewed so much to the point where media groups can control how much of a candidate you see, and it be legal that this candidate could get more exposure, more speaking time than this candidate, and more airtime than another. And money can afford candidates the opportunity to have enough money to run a campaign or not, by money and not democracy. All these things really makes me question even the freedom to vote, right? The degree to which it matters when all of these factors are so much impacting what the value of our vote's going to be. And yeah, it just doesn't feel like democracy, does it? Um, in the Democratic Party, people who uh, didn't support Andrew Yang or thought some other candidate made more sense to them or thought they were better. I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but the candidates you've supported, whether it's been Bernie Sanders or whether it's been Pete Buttigieg or Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, all of these people um, don't have a chance in what of beating Donald Trump. That is gone out the window, and I'm sorry to say that, but that's the reality of the situation. They're not going to beat Donald Trump. It's very hard to beat a sitting president, one who's beat impeachment, who's made the Democrats look like fools. They're not going to beat Donald Trump, and you're selecting other Democratic candidates besides Andrew Yang, who was probably the only candidate who could have pulled people across the aisle, who could have pulled independents, and did any of those things that Bernie Sanders isn't going to be able to do. Biden certainly won't be able to do. I don't even know if he's going to get the nomination. Pete Buttigieg can't do. None of those people, and we know it deep down, have a chance of beating Donald Trump. But the universal message Andrew Yang had, I believe, had the best chance of doing that, right? And even though a lot of us didn't like the fact that, Andrew didn't participate in the circus of in the theatrics of going after people on the debate stage, not interrupting and being rude to more fit some of what people deem to be good American traits. Despite all that, these people aren't going to be able to pull off beating Donald Trump. So I hate to say it, but you might as well pack up and go home. Andrew Yang's dropping out. Chances of beating Donald Trump died with him. So you might as well get ready for 4 more years of Donald Trump. So what happens with the Yang gang now, right? Does it? Well, that's gonna all depend on Andrew. I didn't hear Andrew yet say he's gonna be back in 2024, but it's possible he can. Andrew's a very young guy, and he may feel as compelled to run again in 2024. Maybe. I do not know because Andrew Yang, he wasn't one of these people who want to be president. You got to remember that. He was doing it for the American people. He believed if he brought this message, we could win it. And the American people have disappointed him, right? So it might not be any hope at this early stage for the American people. And I don't know if it's going to be enough for Andrew to want to come back in 2024 or not. Maybe. He did say this is the beginning, right? Or maybe he may help another candidate, because the one good thing about presenting an idea like universal basic income to the world is that it's not going away. Now that political candidates have seen how far they can get with it, they're going to keep at it. And it is going to come into being one of these times. I don't know when, but it is coming, right? It is not gone away, and it is not over. And the Yang Gang community has a lot of energy still to put into this movement, the universal basic income movement. And I hope we do so. There are, outside of government, politics, many platforms, many projects that are trying to bring global universal basic income. And you do not need a government to do that, right? In fact, if I'm honest about it, when I first started talking about Andrew Yang, I actually discovered Andrew Yang after I was already into universal basic income. I was involved with cryptocurrency, and we had figured out years ago that cryptocurrency could be a good use of universal basic income because of our ability to connect servers, run nodes, and have a situation where we can transact money globally almost free. In some cases, practically free. And being able to send these payments across borders could give us the ability to create our own kind of economies and our own economic prosperity and freedom. And, I'm sorry to say that Andrew Yang may go forward, and I hope he does. But as for me and this whole political thing I only did it because of the universal basic income. And I think that what I've learned from this experience is that universal basic income, from my perspective, is probably not going to even work the best it can in any government setting. I think the only way universal basic income is probably going to really work now is if it's outside government hands. Because the reality of the situation is, even if Andrew Yang would have won, we already know that Congress was going to fight us every step of the way, clawing, we had to claw our way in. Even with Bernie Sanders, if he was able to get the nomination and even win, which I highly doubt that will happen, but if he could, it would not be the end. He would be fought every step of the way and stopped every step of the way, right, by a Republican Congress. And so it's going to be the same for us, right? Blockchain technology, I'm starting to believe, is the only way for a lot of ideas like universal basic income and many economic solutions that we need. And here's the beauty of what I'm talking about here. It doesn't need a dime out of your pocket for you to get value and to earn universal basic income through our project. You only need to register. One great thing Andrew Yang said a great deal about was he talked about how our data and social media was the oil of the future. And he is correct. A big movement like Yang Gang, if we were to put our heads together and work together, we could do this outside of the government. We know it because in cryptocurrency, we do it already. And we wouldn't have to worry about government officials shutting us down because this technology can't be shut down. We wouldn't have to worry about government parties in opposition to it to keep their corruption going, to keep their collusion going, to keep their crony capitalism going. We wouldn't have to worry about any of those things. And there are such projects that exist today that have those opportunities there. Cryptocurrency projects that use a digital money. And we're such one of those projects. We're called Bitcoin NYK. And the reason we're called Bitcoin NYK, you've probably heard of the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. We do what's called a type of fork off Bitcoin where we're able to take certain value out of Bitcoin and pay for our universal basic income project, right? Now, in the beginning, it's not anything like $1,000 per month, anywhere near that, right? Very little money, very, very little money. But as we build up the network and more people get in, this could become a colossal movement value system unlike the world has ever seen before. We're looking here at our page and you see artists, right? This is very reminiscent to some of the things Andrew Yang said when he spoke about what some of the things people would do with their universal basic income is artists. They would go into art, philosophy, right? Music. They would do some of the things they really want to do. Musicians would earn money. And they do all these things, and our value systems would change. And that's what's happening here on the Bitcoin MYK site. And these are one of the things we can do with some of that energy from the Andrew Yang election, right? His campaign, right? And it's not just us. It's many others. We're going to show you some others besides us. I don't want people to feel like I'm just promoting our own thing. But this is something that started before Andrew Yang came on the scene. And it's basically celebrating these various artists who go out here through social media and give value to the world and all of us, right? So that's what we're working on with Bitcoin MYK, and it is a digital money. It could be sent to any place in the world, and there's many moving parts to it. But before I get out of here, I want to show you something else along those lines, because what we want to do is the universal basic income movement is still going, right? But it needs not be just within the United States. It needs not just be here in our neighborhoods. It can be a global phenomenon. And with this technology, some of the most advanced technology in the world, we're able to do that right now. Okay, so we're here on the Mana Token project page. There's a very important reason I want to show you all this. If you come right here, you see ManaBase is an online platform for the world's first universal basic income cryptocurrency, right? And I think they're absolutely right, because when I first got into cryptocurrency, I was seeing these guys years ago before I even came up with the idea of launching my own cryptocurrency universal basic income project. And where they were doing quite well. Now, the Mana Token project they're doing some things over the blockchain. I believe they're going to build a social media site. And one big issue we've had with universal basic income in cryptocurrency is very similar to the same thing we've had with universal basic income in our normal economic systems, and that is, how do you pay for these things, right? You know, giving everybody money is not easy to do. It costs a lot of money, right? And so to be able to do that, you've got to have some source to pull from. And through cryptocurrency, it's kind of different, because you're able to generate either through mining, the creation of these cryptocurrencies and this value, and people accept that, much like we accept many other currencies, and it gives it value. Vendors accept it. People trade it amongst each other, whatever the case may be. It builds an economy up, and it's almost like an eternal government, for lack of a better word, or I'm sorry, economic system, where you can distribute this money around it. But the beauty of many cryptocurrencies, and I think Mana Token may be like this, is they have a fixed supply. So you can't inflate it, right? You can't create more money. And because of that, you have a deflationary quality that gives it a certain value. People can't steal from you, right? They can't go print more money and inflate your money, right? Meaning you have less buying power. So cryptocurrency has an accounting ledger, a public ledger on several servers, computers, and people aren't able to change that ledger, right? So you can't tamper with it or anything to that degree. And that immutability is very important in accounting, right? You know, obviously, if people can't steal from you, people are going to have more value. So here's what's interesting about Mana Token, and I just want to put out the differences between the site you just saw and Mana Token. In talking about how you're able to make this sustainable, so people, because Mana is having a very similar problem to us right now, and that is people don't get a lot of money because it costs a lot of money to give away free money, right? You got to have some way of generating it. And because we're called Bitcoin MYK, Bitcoin is the most successful cryptocurrency. It's worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And we're able to squeeze a bit of that network and be able to give value to people. Mana Token goes a different route. It's more traditional. And it's a little bit harder for it to get money as it doesn't have a source to really pull from. It's just a social network in the cryptocurrency itself and the network itself that has to generate this value. So it's a little bit harder to do than us because we're taking a more simulated government approach, whereas like in Andrew Yang's universal basic income, he was going to get value from actually from obviously the taxes at the VAT tax, right? So that's how he was going to generate his income. How we do it is similar, but it will come from Bitcoin, and it comes from a situation where people in Bitcoin get our cryptocurrencies, and it's almost like the small percentage transfer of their network to ours. But some people who hold the Bitcoin value, they have lost their accounts forever. That could be either they lost their passwords or they didn't claim their tokens, and that value recirculates back through our pool. So it's a process to it. We've done a white paper on it that if you're really interested in ideas and concepts of universal basic income, we wholeheartedly invite you to look at our website resources and find out more about it. But here's a little surprise I want to show you about Mana Token cryptocurrency. What I want to show you is they have an advisory board, and look who's on it. Andrew Yang, right? So I'm not sure who this fellow is. Okay, I think I know this guy, Soren Oakland. He's a scientist, a Danish scientist. I think he did some TED Talks, and of course they're talking about Andrew Yang's Venture for America. Bitcoin MYK, I believe we will be reaching out to Andrew to see if he would like to sit on our advisory board, if he likes how we generate revenue in Bitcoin MYK. So we will be contacting Andrew, and I hope we can get him involved. We very much love him as an advisor on to really look into these cryptocurrencies and explore that. But what we're saying to you all now is now you have all this energy, the UBI marches, and you really want to make a difference with UBI. Register to our site because the power of the Yang Gang can create a lot of value. Remember, social media is the oil of the future. It's more valuable than oil, right? Think about that a moment. When you think about that, you realize we don't need governments. We have all the technology and capability to do this on our own and give value to the people and send value to people over a network of servers, feed people, clothe people, house people. We have the ability to do that, right? But to be able to do that, it's up to us, right? We have to make that decision to do that. So if you're feeling like you've been on the universal basic income, you've been on this roller coaster with Andrew Yang, great guy who tried to present to us and bring us something life-changing and world-changing, but we just hadn't evolved enough to get there. But if you're one of those people who who are in that state, and I know you must be if you're a Yang Gang supporter, join us. Register to our site. We're not asking you for a dime of your money. The network itself is the value. So join us, like, share, subscribe, get others to join, tell them about it, let them join, and let them get to see the value in association with this project. But that's all I want to say at this time. If you all like content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, take care.